Hey, welcome to Janktown. Will here, and today we'll be doing one of my favorite things to do on this channel, which is taking an older commander and then updating it for the current year. And today, our featured commander is Kaalia of the Vast. She was originally released in 2011 with the original Commander products, and she was recently reprinted in Modern Horizons 3. Kaalia is a 4-mana value 2/2 Mardu human cleric. I could have sworn she was an angel. She has flying, and she has the infamous ability of whenever she attacks, she lets us cheat in an angel, demon, or dragon from our hand into play, tapped and attacking. So we're gonna get into commander analysis, the deck's themes, and we're gonna end with some specific card choices as well as some cards that just didn't make the cut. So if that sounds good to you, I hope you could leave a like, share, and subscribe. Those things really help the channel out. And let's get into this deep dive. Over the years, Kaalia has developed quite the reputation, and it's something that she's never really been able to shake off. She is the definition of what I like to call a high heat index, because once she hits play, people are trying to scramble for removal, they want to wipe the board. If they can't, we still end up being arch enemy. Anyway, even if we have nothing threatening in hand, it only means that players dodged a bullet for a turn, and we're still gonna need to die first. And so this is why I think the role that best suits her is that of an enabler rather than a build around. Of course, our deck would run so much better when she gets to do her thing, but we'd want our deck to be able to run well even without her. Because after all, the last thing we'd want are just a bunch of bombs in our hand and no means to play them. Because Kaalia costs like 6 or 8, she's been hated out. Besides, by the time we get to like 6 to 8 mana, we'd probably rather cast the actual bomb we have in hand rather than trying to still jump through a hoop of cheating it out with Kaalia. So more than relying on Kaalia, it's more reliable to lean on consistently hitting our land drops and our ramp spells. This would have been easier if we had green, but Mardu has received a lot of treasure support recently, and so those can be just as good, if not better, in certain situations. Now, I would even go as far as to say that sometimes we shouldn't be above using Kaalia as a decoy. She is like a removal magnet, so use her to bait out the wraths, the targeted removal, counter spells, things like this, as just a means to be able to protect the actual game enders that we want to play. Speaking of which, let's talk about the other part of our deck, which is the fun part and likely what drew you to Kaalia in the first place: the angels, demons, and dragons. Now, there have been so many new ones printed since 2011, and this is across various budget tiers. But for our build today, I made sure that we don't exceed the $10 to $15 on any individual card. But still, the card selection can be overwhelming, and something I've found useful is to have these bombs also cover some of the basics or the fundamental aspects of deck building, which is interaction and card advantage. Now, it's always best to not underestimate our opponents, because despite how strong our individual creatures might be, if they go super wide, they can overwhelm us. If we have one bomb and it gets removed, we're out of gas. If they have an engine, then maybe the whole board state might be inconsequential as they start comboing off. That being said, I still highly encourage any player who plays Kaalia to find room for their pet cards, because Kaalia is a commander that allows us to do flashy plays, and ultimately that's what we're here for, right? To have fun. So win, lose, or draw, always have fun. These 7 different themes of our deck are gonna consist of our usuals of ramp, removal, and draw, but we'll also have cheat, finishers, resilience, and something we like to call UBP, or utilities, bombs, and pets. We'll kick things off with ramp, and that's something Mardu's gotten really good at, actually. Soul Ring, Signet Bauble, the holy trinity of casual commander, but I also threw in the Talisman of Indulgence because our deck mainly skews towards black and red. I also talked about the importance of treasures and Curse of Opulence, Lotho, Descent into Avernus, and Decadent Dragon, just repeatable ways to be able to generate treasure. Now, I also really value the damage that Descent into Avernus brings because it puts a legit clock on the game. Damage is our primary way of closing things out, and so this just speeds us up to the end game, and our opponents are sort of like forced to keep up with us and all the bombs that we're playing. Now, outside of these, I still value land ramp, and so Solemn Simulacrum, Archaea Mantras Map, and Weathered Wayfarer, just ways to get lands out of our deck, and they're just a more stable way of generating like this permanent card advantage, or at least man advantage. Finally, a pair of creature-based ramp. There's Generator Servant, which gives haste when we sacrifice it. Maybe you want to bring out Kaalia, at least we can get value in the same turn she comes down, and Harrogast. Now, this is a card that I just want to try try out. Not really sure if it'll work too well. We're not a sacrifice-based deck, but I do think the emerged mana reduction thing can be quite a big deal. Now for removal, we want to rely on our threats, but also rely on some of the staples that we have. Path to Exile, just exiles any creature, and we can even use it on one of our own creatures if we really need to hit a land drop. Anzarog's Rampage destroys all artifacts, but we also get to cheat a creature into play. Toxic Deluge just gets around indestructible and hexproof and all that. Spiteful Banditry, an X damage based spell. I like this because it can generate for us some treasures. And finally, some big creatures. Angelus Serenity exiles 3 creatures. Balefire Dragon can totally wipe out a board if it gets in. And Steel Hellkite. It's pretty scary if you've ever gone up against this dragon and you have no flyers to block it. It can just wipe out an opponent's board. Now we want to have gas throughout the game, and so we want a mix of burst and incremental card draw. There's Knight's Whisper, Bitter Reunion, Big Score, just means to be able to smoothen out our draws. By the way, Bitter Reunion, I also value being able to sacrifice it to give our creatures haste, just in case, again, we need to swing in with Kaalia immediately. Then there's Painful Truth, Thrilling Discovery, Siphon Mind, and the Demon Lord, Bells Unlocked, just a means to be able to burst draw for one time. The Demon Lord can be hit or miss, but a lot of our spells are 4 mana value or greater, for better or for worse. So the hope is we get to draw 3 cards with it. Then there's some of the steady incremental draw, which is Phyrexian Arena, Bloodgift Demon. They both read pretty similarly. The Demon, not too flashy to cheat out with Kaalia, but we will take it if it's there. Finally, some engines in Vilis and Infernal Sovereign. The Infernal can be quite a risk because whenever you do this with Kaalia or you cheat a creature into play, it's not like you're casting them, so you're just going down a card in your hand rather than replacing it. But make room for pet cards, and I think this is something that's really cool to play. However, since we don't want to solely rely on Kaalia, we want redundancy on her ability to cheat creatures in. Sneak Attack and Quicksilver Amulet just means to be able to cheat any creature from her hand into play. Perforos, Bronze Blooded, Arni Metalbrow, and Ilharg the Razeboard. These come in with their own certain conditions, whether you need to be able to attack or they need to be red, but we are playing a lot less than their mana value, so we're still coming out ahead. And then there's some reanimation tricks with Reanimate and Victimize. Reanimate works so sick with Vilis because when you do reanimate it, you lose 8, therefore you get to draw 8. Victimize, you get 2 creatures back for the price of 1. And finally, another pet card, Crabomination. Another new card from Modern Horizons 3. I don't know how well this will play. I've never tried it out yet, but it does seem fun. And I don't know, you just want to try it, right? It's a demon after all. But now that we have a means to cheat threats in, let's talk about the actual scary things that we're playing to close out the game. Bloodthirster, Aurelia the War Leader, these are just means to be able to get extra combat damage. Aurelia is a bit more telegraphed because if we bring her down with Kaalia's ability, it's not like we're triggering that extra combat just yet, unlike Bloodthirster, which is dependent on combat damage. But then there's Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, Blast Furnace Hellkite, Terror of Mount Velis, just means to be able to double our damage with either double strike or just outright doubling the damage. Can be absolute game ender. And another way to double our damage is through Archfiend of Despair, one of the pricier cards in our deck and something that I've always wanted to play but never really found a home for. At the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life that they've already lost that turn, so that can absolutely KO a person if we're able to take them down to half their life. And finally, there's Warstorm Surge. Yeah, it's not a creature, but it does take advantage of the fact that we're playing a lot of big boys who have a lot of power and can therefore just end somebody's night. Now, since our primary way of winning is on board, we need resiliency to be able to withstand our opponent's interactions. Greaves, Boots, Das Boots, the boat, reliable ways to be able to protect Kaalia or any other threat we might have. Flawless Maneuver, Boros Charm, and Boromir, just ways to be able to give our board indestructible, be able to withstand a wipe. Breathkeeper Seraph, an Angel with Soul Bond, which essentially makes it really hard for our opponent to, snipe down creatures individually. And there's Sephara Skyblade, which just grants all our flyers indestructible, and hey, Angels, Demons, and Dragons, plus Kaalia, all have flying. Last pair of cards for this theme, there's Lisa Forgotten Archangel, which when a creature dies, can go right back to our hand. Perfect if we snuck attack it in, or we cheat it out with Kaalia and it gets destroyed. And there's Phyrexian Reclamation, just a 1 mana value enchantment that if we pay 2 and 2 life, we can bounce a creature from our graveyard back to our hand. Perfect for setting Kaalia or any other sneak attack type effects up. UVP time. Now we just want to plug in some holes as well as add a couple more bombs to our deck. Ishin 2 Heavens is 1 in Strionic Resonator. Just means to be able to double the trigger of Kaalia. But Strionic Resonator is actually also really good in this deck because we can double any type of trigger, whether that is the Balefire Dragon trigger, I don't know, Crabomination, Steely Thing trigger. Another ability that we can double the trigger off of is Sower of Discord, which reads whenever damage is dealt to one of the chosen players, because we choose 2 players first, the other chosen player also loses that much life. So since it starts with the word whenever, you know, some guy takes 6, another guy takes 6, but we can double that, and essentially that other guy now takes 12. Anger, Rising of the Day, just means to be able to give our creatures haste. It's useful in a pinch. And finally, there's Ghostly Prison and Blind Obedience, just means to be able to either save our face or be able to tap down blockers, make sure that opponents find it really hard to set up their defenses. Plus, Blind Obedience has Extort, so do not overlook the incremental life gain when you are being targeted down as the arch enemy. Just want to go over 3 cards that just didn't make the cut. I want to call out the elephant in the room, the CLB Dragons. All of these fit so well into the deck, but they are all priced insanely high, like $20 over each. If you have them in your collection, I'd run them. They're just so cool. I also want to give a shout out to Pyru the Volatile. Really wanted to put it in the deck, just gonna make it work, but it'd be so flashy to have like an Elder Dragon in here. And last is Master of Cruelties. This is like a Kaalia signature spell, because, you know, you could put it in off of her ability, so you overlook that whole it needs to attack alone clause, and since it has first strike, it'll deal damage first, bringing the opponent down to 1, in which Kaalia will finish them off. Part of what makes Kaalia scary, but also I've seen it enough times, so yeah. But feel free to play it if you've never seen it happen before. That's it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed that video, and if you found it useful, the deck list is available in the description down below. You can also follow us on Moxfield. We also go by MTG Janktown over there. If you have a cool commander deck that you want us to feature, you can also email us at mtgjanktown@gmail.com. Now, if you want to support the channel, right now there's only one way to do so, and that's by hitting the like, share, and subscribe. I promise you those things go a long way in helping the channel out. Stay inspired, friends, and I'll see you soon.